Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today, update 13.8 has gone live, which is bringing you guys Victoria, the Pan American battleships, and a bunch of other goodies. I, however, am recording this video a day in advance, so I don't have access to update 13.8 just yet, but you can bet your wallet that I will be doing my best to get my hands on the Pan American battleships or the Victoria around 3 p.m. U.S. Central Time tomorrow. Now, which of those am I going for first? Well, you'll find that out on Thursday, because I'll be uploading my review of said ship that day. But anyway, today we are taking a look at a ship that many a player would say is, if they don't say it's the worst ship in game, they would say it is among the worst ships in game. It's a fairly newer ship at that. So we are, of course, discussing the ship that you've been watching on the screen for the past minute or so, and that is the Tier 10 Japanese light cruiser, the Yodo. Now, why is this usually hailed as, again, among the worst ships in game, if not the worst ship in game? Well, you see, Yodo it's weird. It is very, very weird. Take a look at any other light cruiser in game. Typically, they will have rapid-firing guns with shorter main battery gun ranges and have little to no armor and small hit point pools. So, the Yodo isn't really that. You see, she does have a large number of smaller caliber guns, but they aren't exactly rapid firing by any stretch of the imagination, because they have a 12.5 second reload time, which is most certainly heavy cruiser territory when it comes to reload, but they're 150mm guns, not 203mm guns. However, that is offset by the fact that you have 18 of these suckers on your ship. So it's a light cruiser that has a main battery that feels more like a heavy cruiser, but it doesn't hit like a heavy cruiser in most cases because they are only 150mm guns. So that's pretty weird. And then if you take a look at the armor scheme of the Yodo, if you can't tell, the ship is just downright chunky. Like, look at the thing. It's a huge target. It doesn't have fantastic armor because it is a light cruiser, not like the Japanese heavy cruisers have any better armor by any stretch of the imagination, and it's also quite sluggish. You see, it's got a huge turning circle radius, and it doesn't really have the best rudder shift time for a light cruiser, so that's not great. I mean, it's got a 9-second rudder, but it's got a big turning circle of 930 meters. That ain't little, fellas. That's getting into like Iowa territory when it comes to turning circle radius. So that's not great at all. So you have a chunky hull that's not that maneuverable, that is very, very susceptible to large caliber AP, which is everywhere at high tier now, because this is a tier 10, right? So you're going to be stuck in tier 10 matchmaking, which means you're going to see super ships like the Satsuma and the Patri that can easily just go straight through your armor and remove 2/3 of your HP with a single shell hitting the right portion of your ship. It's one of the few light cruisers that can't really subscribe to the more armor is less armor situation, so yeah, like it can't go broadside and just eat overpins like something like an Austin or a Janan or a Smolensk can, because it's going to eat pins if you show them your side, even from close range. Unless we're talking about like extreme close range with something like maybe like the French guns. But yeah, so not only does it feel like a heavy cruiser when you're firing the guns, but then hit like a light cruiser when your shells get there because they're small guns. It feels like a heavy cruiser when you're maneuvering, but yet it cannot tank like a heavy cruiser because it's incredibly squishy. So you have what feels like all the downsides of a heavy cruiser with none of the upsides of a light cruiser. So it's a very odd and uncomfortable combination for most players. Now, there's also some other oddities between it and the heavy cruiser line when you take a look at them. Like, for some reason, the Yodo, the light cruiser, has more HP than Zhao, the heavy cruiser. And Zhao, the heavy cruiser, has better concealment than Yodo, the light cruiser. So that's just odd. Now, there are some upsides to the Yodo. First off, the guns. they do pin 30 millimeters of armor without IFHE, which is pretty solid. So that means cruisers, destroyers, you'll have zero problem ripping them to shreds with your guns. And of course, you won't have any problem, with battleship superstructure. And when you come across the battle cruisers, you can pin their extremities. So that's pretty nice. And if you want to take IFHE, you can and get a little bit more consistency there with the pins. However, the fire chance is pretty solid because each shell has a 10% base fire chance. Now you take the Fire Flag and Demolition Expert, and now you have a 12% chance per shell of starting a fire. And this ship has 18 guns. So you have plenty of fire starting potential here with the Yodo. So that's pretty solid. The torpedoes are also quite nice. You get 2 racks per side. Their maximum alpha damage is 23,766 base. That's pretty good. The reload time base is also 100 seconds, so you can build into that, get it down a little lower. And when you have torpedoes that do 23k alpha, you really only need to, nick a ship with it once or twice to really be putting a hurting on them. And especially in, a cruiser who has 15-kilometer torps, there's a lot you can do with that. I'll typically throw them down a path that I know is, kind of highly traversed by destroyers or cruisers at the beginning of the match if I can get close enough. And you'd be surprised how many times you'll hit something. And again, you hit them with 2 torps, you're doing like 40k alpha. Now, of course, you factor in like their torpedo protection and stuff, it'll be a little bit lower, but it's still a good chunk of damage either way. Not to mention that when you are kiting an enemy ship, you've got these torpedoes that you can keep throwing at them every 100 seconds at least, before adrenaline rush and like your commander skills and modules are factored in. That's a lot of torpedo potential that you see here with the Yodo. So with all that in mind, because those are like the big strengths of the Yodo that I can think of right now. Oh, it's got pretty nice turret traverse, and several of the turrets can 360 degree rotate 360 degrees, which is pretty helpful when you are surviving and dancing for your friggin' life. So that's pretty nice. But that's the Yodo in a nutshell. Downsides of a heavy cruiser, not many of the upsides of a light cruiser, pretty decent torpedoes, good fire chance. So typically what you need for a good Yodo game is something that's pretty hard to come by, and that is team support. You need a lot of team support because the Yodo, it's not really a ship. It's not one of those light cruisers that can kind of spot for itself, but be either agile enough or have like a smoke screen or something to smoke up. You get spotted, you bait the enemy ship to shoot at you, they fire, you smoke up, now they're spotted because they fire the main battery guns. If we're talking about a battleship, right? You can farm them down for a bit, and you tend to annoy them enough to where they'll try to blind fire you, and they'll keep firing their guns and stay spotted. Or it's not one of those ships that have the tool set to where they can, kind of just open water gunboat it and go for it, like the Pan American light cruisers. Those are some hellishly annoying light cruisers to deal with. So typically you need good team support. You need someone to spot, because you're probably going to be darting in and out from behind islands to try and farm ships down, or sit behind an island and farm them down with your main battery guns. And again, some other light cruisers, because, it's not just like, they see you're in a Yodo and your teammates don't support you. It happens all the time. A lot of other light cruisers can fall back on, that no armor, best armor ability, where their armor's so thin, the AP shells will go right through it. The Yodo can't, because it just eats dirt, it seems, from almost whatever angle the shell enters its armor at. So it can't really fall back on that at all. And again, you don't really have the main battery rapid firingness that you have with other light cruisers, to where you can, just kind of dock things down from close range. Don't get me wrong, 18 150 millimeter shells, that's going to make most destroyers and most light cruisers' days quite miserable. And you can even load AP in the tubes, and it does have, again, 18 shells. And against light cruisers, that's in absolutely blappage territory for light cruisers that come across your AP. But another thing that it has going for it is its range. It has an 18-kilometer main battery gun range on those 150 millimeter guns, which means typically you are firing this thing from like maximum range with your HE. And at that range, the bad turning circle radius isn't exactly terrible, but still at 18 kilometers out, you still need team spotting, right? Like, you need your destroyers to spot, you need your subs to spot, you need your other cruisers to spot. But a lot of times in, again, higher tier games, you just won't get that. So it can't really play much closer than, darn near its maximum main battery gun range, unless, again, you're using the island cover, which you still need team support for. So yeah, that leads to a pretty miserable experience in most cases in higher tier games. Now, because of that, again, of that frustration of, just what it is, the Yodo, it does get this bad reputation for, again, being a terrible ship. Again, I wouldn't say it's like high up there with amazing light cruisers, but where you're watching the background, as far as like damage goes, this is typically what'll happen with a Yodo match. Because like look at the situation that I'm in on this match. I spawn in on a side that has no island cover, and I have to play at my main battery gun range for a good chunk of the match, farming down what battleships I can. And when I am doing that, because I don't have any island cover to get behind, I'm still eating the occasional salvo from, I think there was a bongo out there. He would hit me with like a shell or two, and you can just see my health just disintegrate, right? So that's very frustrating to be, just by the unluckiness of my spawn, be on the wrong side of the map for the Yodo, and now just kind of gotta play with what you got. And I had a pretty good game overall, but like with any other light crews, it's like, okay, I could have gotten a little bit closer because of the rapid fire nature of the guns, or again by the fact that I'll probably would have a smoke screen or something that would allow me to play a little bit closer. But again, not so much with the Yodo. She does also have a surprising high degree of utility. Like, you get hydro, catapult plane, submarine surveillance. That's quite a bit to have on a ship that isn't like the Wooster, right? So you do get a fair amount of consumables on there as well to kind of help you perform better. Submarine surveillance, really odd pick for the Japanese light cruiser line. The heavy cruisers make a little bit more sense because they have to play a little bit closer because they're shorter main battery gun range. But the Yodo line, they're typically playing from their maximum gun range or hugging islands. I guess maybe for like hugging islands with submarines trying to shotgun you, it's fairly useful. But other than that, not really. So okay, but hey, wargaming is going to do what wargaming is going to do. So the Yodo, is it completely useless? No, not really. If you have good team support, it is a really powerful ship to just annoy the hell out of the enemy team. Because again, with 18 shells and a 12% fire chance, it will start fires. Don't worry about that. It will start fires. But of course, you need that team support in order to make it happen. Are there better light cruisers out there? Yes, abso-friggin-lutely. Would this even be in my top 5? Not my top 5, like my top, 10 light cruisers to check out? Absolutely not. It'd be pretty far down there. But I mean, like, when you do get like a CV game, or a game where you have a DD that's just doing DD things and actually spotting for you, it can be a really good ship to be on the off flank, to be just harassing the enemy team. And the 10 kilometer concealment is, that is a solid concealment range for a light cruiser, so you can go dark when you need to, and then fall back on your torpedoes to just chunk those in the faces of the enemy ships that are pushing you. But again, you need like a destroyer player or like a CV spotting for you, a submarine on your side spotting for you. If not, you're going to get absolutely rolled in the Yodo. So I think that, with the combination of, again, all the downsides of a heavy cruiser, none of the upsides of a light cruiser, also definitely hurt its reputation. And yeah, again, I wouldn't worry about grinding this thing out right away, but is it as useless as some and a lot do say? No, not really, in my opinion. But guys, that is my 2 cents on the Yodo. Let me know what you guys think about her in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, a wonderful update day. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.